A land famous for its rich culture, stunning scenery, and mysterious folklore, Scotland now welcomes over 100 million tourists per year.
Cold, the rain, and everything like that. So for me, Scotland was better than any other place in the world.
But what does tourism bring to Scotland?
Tourism employs more people in the Highlands than any other industry. It's absolutely vital to the welfare of the Highlands.
Is it becoming overwhelming?
Well, the Highlands has a population of around 236,000, but yet we get 8.4 million tourists.
And we don't have over-tourism in Scotland. We didn't then and we don't have it today.
And what are the effects?
They were saying they were averaging 6,000 people a month camping on it. No toilets. I'll let that sink in.
Millions of people visit Scotland every year, with the number steadily increasing since COVID rocked the tourism industry in 2020.
And who can blame them? With its vibrant cities and outstanding natural landscapes like this, Scotland has something for all kinds of travellers.
I first came to Scotland as a teenage tourist and have now been living here for 7 years. Despite being an incomer, I feel like a local in my city, Edinburgh, the country's capital. And while I've visited a number of Scotland's beautiful destinations, there is plenty more for me to see. But I am highly aware of the growing number of visitors to the country and have recently found myself asking, what is the impact of this and what can be done?
Tourism is basically the visitor economy. It's the heartbeat of a nation. It cross-cuts every sector of industry. And as we say, it's everyone's business. And what it provides is significant contributions to the visitor economy, to local communities, but also, as I say, it becomes the lifeblood of much of what goes on. And I often refer to now, since the horrifics of COVID, it has thankfully become more and more apparent to many more people of just how many households it touches because of the intricacies that it has.
Mark emphasised the benefits that tourism brings to Scotland as a whole, but doesn't shy away from admitting that they have recognised the need to communicate with local communities directly impacted by tourism, who say it's becoming too much.
And we don't have over-tourism in Scotland. We didn't then and we don't have it today. But what we recognised was just how important it was engaging the communities in the tourism piece, rather than them feeling they were having tourism done to them.
He says that the biggest challenge they have is competing against every other sector in Scotland for funding. Clearly, the tourism industry is one of the most vital to the Scottish economy, and this is perhaps even more pertinent in other parts of the country. So I want to find out how it impacts them, but also how I, a resident of Scotland who desperately wants to see more of it, can make sure I do so in a responsible way. Before I go anywhere, though, I want to meet some tourists and find out why they've come here, where they're going, and what their experiences have been being visitors to Scotland. I make a post on a Facebook group titled Scotland Travel Tips to see if any soon-to-be visitors are willing to speak to me about their long-anticipated trips. I get lots of responses, comments including itineraries, even mood boards. People are passionate about visiting Scotland. I arranged my first meeting in Edinburgh. I am on my way to meet up with a man from France. He has travelled here on his motorbike, all the way from France, I think. And I really want to hear about the trip that he's got planned, what his expectations are for driving around Scotland on a motorbike, if he's done a lot of research, what the research has said about that, and just, in general, how he's going to get on and what he's planning on doing while he's here.
These are stuff to repair the bike on each side.
When I arrive, Ludwig shows me how he's packed his bike, repair kits, food, and of course, all important waterproofs. This trip has been a long time in the making.
Scotland's been a long dream for me. I always wanted to come there. So I bought a map. I made some research on the internet, a few things I want to see. So I made many dots on my map. And I tried to make a link between them. And then, who knows, I do what I can. I love the idea of certain loneliness and something savage I want to be this trip. I wanted to be on my own and really feeling alone, feeling the nature, feeling the elements, the cold, the rain, and everything like that. So for me, Scotland was better than any other place in the world.
His route is not defined, but he has a few specific places he wants to visit. He wants to go with the flow and perhaps meet locals on the way who can tell him the best places to eat and camp. I get the impression that he wants to avoid being part of the tourist crowd.
I'm between the explorer and the tourist. For example, I would like to visit Edinburgh, but it's awful. Too many people. You can't ride, you can't drive, you can't park, you can't walk. It's complicated. That's why I go to northern Scotland too. I don't want to see people.
Just one day riding through Edinburgh has Ludwig feeling how many do when they walk around the city. He's escaping to what he hopes will be a quieter north, but the route that he'll be using is the most popular one amongst tourists who want to see Scotland. The NC500 is a 516-mile route around the entire northern coast of Scotland, branded as the ultimate road trip. The road has been there for decades, of course, but it was only 10 years ago that it began to be heavily promoted as one of the best ways to visit the country. I was eager to learn more about the state of tourism in parts of Scotland I'm less familiar with. How important is the industry for the rural communities of the Highlands and those situated along the NC500? And what impact is tourism having? Before embarking on a journey north, I have a conversation with Councillor Ken Goins, Vice Convener of the Highland Council and Chair of the Economy and Infrastructure Committee.
People seem to have discovered the Highlands after COVID. It became very popular during COVID because people had to remain in the UK and they were looking for alternatives to going overseas. But since then, there's been a huge influx, especially in camper vans and camping.
He tells me that more people than ever are choosing to camp rather than use local accommodation. He also reveals the deadlier side of an increased number of vehicles on Scottish roads.
We also attract a lot of people with the North Coast 500 with car clubs and motorcycle riders who wish to come up. And that can be problematic because quite often there are fatalities due to collisions with motorbikes or whatever. In fact, there's been 2 this week, so it's quite a regular thing, sadly.
Tourism has some significant implications on the Scottish Highlands, so I head up to Inverness, its capital, and the northernmost city of the UK, to find out more. It's a 3.5-hour train journey from Edinburgh, a great opportunity to see some of Scotland's beautiful landscapes. I've done this journey before, but this time I decide to drive, to experience the Scottish roads and, of course, once I'm up there, the famous NC500. Known for its deep and expansive loch, which holds more fresh water than all the other lochs and lakes in the UK combined, Inverness is usually the first port of call for visitors touring the Highlands. It is also the home of the Highland Council, where I go to meet Ken in person for a more in-depth conversation about tourism in his area.
Well, in general, the revenue that's generated through tourism certainly helps with employability and sustainability within Highland. It creates so many jobs. Some of them are seasonal, but that's becoming less so.
I'm aware that for some areas, tourism has completely positively transformed them. Situated about 1 hour north of Inverness and on the eastern part of the NC500, Dornoch has a population of approximately 1,500, but attracts thousands more in visitors every year. Golf tourism is what has put Dornoch on the map and transformed it from its humble beginnings. The Royal Dornoch Golf Club was founded in 1877, but the history of golf in the area dates all the way back to 1616.
We're very lucky here that Dornoch has created a huge reputation around the world for the type of course it is. It's a traditional Scottish links course. The natural features are not man-made, they're just what the ground was there for us.
In St Andrews alone, golf is worth more than £300 million to the Scottish economy every year. For a small town in the Northern Highlands such as Dornoch, golf and the visitors it brings are essential to its well-being. Golf tourism creates hundreds of jobs here and brings a lot of business to the local community. But this is a relationship that's had to be nurtured over the years.
We at Royal Dornoch work very hard to be an integral part of the community. We know that the economy of the town thrives on and depends on the money that the golfers bring in. The visitors like speaking to the members like speaking to the visitors. Our members are very proud of what they have, and they want to hear the visitors say nice things about it. So it really is a very close relationship. It's something we've done for the 150 years the club has been in existence, because the economy of the town would not survive without the golf and without the visitor pound.
With the course situated on the cliffside above Dornoch Beach, you can see why so many people visit. Others end up here as a stop on the NC500 route. And as I walked around the town and the beach, I saw many coaches, minivans and camper vans. On the beach, I met David Richardson, the NC500's development and engagement manager.
There was always a problem getting people to come north and west of Inverness. It acted as a bottleneck, and people would go up the A9 and down Loch Ness, or up Loch Ness and across to Skye, but far fewer came north, and it was a constant running sore with businesses up here who had a shorter season and more fragile season as a result. And tourism employs more people in the Highlands than any other industry. It's absolutely vital to the welfare of the Highlands. 200 years ago, Dornoch was dirt poor, really struggling. Now it's been transformed by tourism.
But with more people visiting the area, of course, comes more problems. David tells me that the number of vehicles coming to the NC500 has grown rapidly since COVID, and they are trying hard to mitigate the impact of this.
That's the way people want to do now. They want to have their own camper van. They want to go where they like and stay where they like as long as they like and so on. They don't want to be dictated to. And that's all very well and good. But you have to have management. You can't have squadrons of these things coming north and then doing whatever they like, and regardless of everyone else's sensitivities and needs and wants and the countryside and everything else. So as an organisation, we are pushing really hard now for more to be done. Infrastructure, rules and regulations, enforcement. You can have all the rules you like, but if you don't have enforcement, people say, I'll do what I like. And also education. We're trying to make it work better. About a third of our output is devoted to that alone. But then we've got our visitor pledge, which is all about responsible behaviour. So it's all about what you do and what you don't do. But it goes more than that. You know, there's a leave only footprints, take only memories. But we say, no, don't just leave footprints. Do some good. So you might do a beach clean. Here we are in Dornoch, beautiful beach. You're walking on the beach, see some rubbish, pick it up, take it, bin it. Or if you've got some spare food, put it in a food bag. Leave something good for the community.
Back in Inverness at the Highland Council, I asked Ken how local residents feel about the challenges that tourism brings to their communities.
With a population of around 236,000 and we attract 8.4 million tourists, you can see that there's quite a difference there. So therefore, there's a lot of wear and tear on our infrastructure, and quite often, especially in the more remote parts, the local communities can feel sometimes quite swamped by the sheer volume of tourists that are attracted to the area.
I also asked him if over-tourism is an issue.
Over-tourism is very difficult to imagine what that would be. I mean, there are some areas that are very popular and it does cause a lot of traffic congestion. For example, many of our roads are single track with passing places, and when you get several camper vans in a convoy, then that creates an obvious obstruction within the roads, and that can be very frustrating for people. Also, the sheer volume of people that we get, what you can find is that there's a lot of deterioration of our road surfaces, and also pressure put on things like public toilets and that kind of a thing. So, you know, we need to look at ways where we can improve on that and make sure that our facilities and amenities are sustainable.
After speaking to Ken, I don't get much of a sense of a conversation between the council and locals. So I get in touch with community councils and locals on Facebook, where I discover a page called NC500 The Dirty Truth. Sufficiently intrigued, I send a message to one of the admins, Robin Pettigrew, who agrees to speak to me.
I'm not anti-tourist. Sustainable, responsible tourism is a good thing.
Robin lives in Loch Carron, a village on the west coast of Scotland. Over the last 20 years that he's lived there, he's noted the increasing number of visitors, particularly in vehicles, since the NC500 became an officially recognised tourist route.
Basically, what's happening is a substantial number of vehicles are camping in lay-bys, on verges, in local communities outside people's houses. Some of the collateral damage is wildfires from campfires, disposable barbecues, dumping of toilet cassettes, outdoor toileting, encampment in front of people's homes, all this kind of stuff, poor behaviour.
Robin recognises that it's only a section of the visiting community, but it's substantial neglect to the environment. He thinks it's not because of a lack of care or education for most visitors, but a lack of infrastructure.
So when they initially started promoting the NC500, it was so successful right from the outset. They weren't ready for it. They hadn't done their research. They didn't have the infrastructure to deal with it. And suddenly communities up here were getting completely overwhelmed. Had school bus drivers crying, phoning people up saying, "We're swamped, I can't get through the village. There's people parked up on the verges, lighting fires on the Macca."
For Robin, increased wildfires are the most upsetting implication of tourist camping. In July this year, wildfires that broke out in the Highlands were reportedly the biggest Scotland had ever seen and were likely caused by human activity.
There's one, no, I can't. It's something that really winds me up. And that's people saying, "Oh, well, we'll have a right to a fire." If you go and speak to the firemen who listen to the wildlife screaming to death that hurts. And so that really does wind me up. Sorry about that, but I keep firing that one in at people. They go, "Oh no, but we've got a right. We're responsible. We can use these disposable barbecues."
It's not just wildfires, it's litter, disrespectful camping, and simply the high volume of people staying in places that don't have the infrastructure for it that's affecting these communities. Robin tells me about a popular place on the west coast, Kennerben Beach.
It has a little car park, no facilities, and I think it was the last Rangers report, the one before that, they were saying they were averaging 6,000 people a month camping on it. No toilets. I'll let that sink in. No toilets. The whole of the mountainside round it turned into an open sewer. So when you're talking about the environmental impact and the impact on communities, etc., some of these impacts are huge.
I end my trip standing on the shores of Loch Ness on Dawes Beach. The magnitude of the loch is palpable, and there's a certain serenity that comes with not being able to see where the loch ends and the sky begins. After speaking to Robin, I feel disheartened about the impact of tourism on these communities, that something that brings joy to many is a huge pain point for others. But on Dawes Beach, just in front of the Nessie Hunter Hub, is a litter pick station, equipped with bin bags and grabbers, to encourage visitors to utilise their trip to the beach for good and keep the community clean. Some are doing just that. It's infrastructure that's the main issue in the Highlands, and the council have a proposed plan to raise funds.
That's why we're looking at introducing a visitor levy, because that visitor levy, which would be a very small percentage, would go an awful long way in the Highland. We reckon somewhere a minimum of £10 million a year. That would go a long way to helping us to maintain our roads, etc. Because what we want is we want tourists not just coming here, but we want them coming back. We want them to have a good experience.
But some are sceptical of this plan and worry it'll just drive more visitors onto the roads and out of local accommodation.
Right. So one of the bizarre things about the visitor levy, as proposed by Highland Council, is it applies to campsites, but not if you camp wild. So why would you, if you're going to pay 5% or whatever it is, why would you do that? You already resent having to pay a campsite. So many people don't want to stay on campsites. I mean, we want them to because it's part of the economy, but so many independent-minded campervanners would rather stay in off-road or on the lay-by. The law's a fool when it comes to this. The law's an ass, and it allows them to do so. But, you know, we want to encourage more to use proper facilities and airs and things. We're all right, they have to pay a bit of money, but they get a better service, and it keeps the economy turning over. But this current proposal is absolutely daft.
And complex decisions will have to be made when it comes to how the raised income from the levy is spent.
We're going to look at that in a strategic way so that most of it will be spent strategically, but there should be a pot of money for local expenditure where people can maybe bid in for things. Just recently, we've had a few applications from various organisations looking for the council to fund trips overseas for marketing. Now that's exactly the kind of thing that we could use a visitor levy fund for.
But not everyone agrees with this.
So basically, let me put this as politely as possible. They're advocating spending the money that they're going to get from the tax to go on freebie jollies abroad. Good grief. I wonder why.
So how will residents, businesses and councils come together to agree on measures for better infrastructure, especially in the Highlands? The public consultation period for their visitor levy ended in March this year, and a report with the findings will be considered at a future meeting of the Highland Council to decide whether it will be implemented. Tourism in Scotland is extremely complex. Yes, it brings with it many issues and grievances for local communities, but without visitors passing through, these places would not be the thriving destinations that they are.